Welcome back to Nuclear Proliferation Explained. I'm William Spaniel. Today's topic is nuclear sabotage. Over the last couple of lectures, we have seen how states can use preventive war to stop their opponents from developing nuclear weapons. We've also seen how preventive war is not a catch-all solution. Sometimes preventive war will not work, and then that might make you wonder what else a state can do to handicap an opponent's nuclear program. That's where nuclear sabotage comes into play. One option is assassinations. Let's turn back the clock to June 13th, 1980. Iraq was in the middle of its nuclear program, and they had hired an Egyptian nuclear scientist named Yahya el-Mashad. El-Mashad was perhaps the best trained Arab Iraq had, and so they sent him to France to inspect a shipment of highly enriched uranium that was meant for the Osirek reactor. El-Mashad was staying at the Meridian Hotel in Paris. It was well known that the Meridian was frequented by prostitutes. Later, Marie-Claude Magal would allege that she solicited El-Mashad outside of his room. He turned her down. She then claimed that she heard voices coming from his room before she left the area. There are two versions of the story that explain Magal's testimony, and we still don't really know what the truth is. According to the first version, a spy was in El-Mashad's room, copying his papers. The prostitute's job was to keep El-Mashad busy. She failed, and so the spy, having no other choice, murdered him. Egypt at least thinks that this is the case. Specifically, they claim that Russia hired Syria to investigate how far Iraq was with the program. The second story is that some intelligence agency, perhaps Mossad, brutally murdered El-Mashad to send a message. Either way, to add further intrigue to the story, Magal was killed later in a hit and run on July 12th, and we still don't know what happened there either. More recently, a bunch of Iranian nuclear scientists have died under mysterious circumstances. In January 2007, one succumbed to gas poisoning from a faulty heater. In January of 2010, one died from a bomb planted outside of his car. In November of that year, another died from a bomb attached to his car. In July of 2011, one was shot in a hit and run. And in January of 2012, another died due to another bomb attached to his car. The next sabotage method is viruses. You may have heard of the Stuxnet virus. What exactly did it do? Well, this is the Natanz nuclear facility in Iran. It's the home of a bunch of uranium centrifuges. Those are the things that a country can use to create enriched fuel that's suitable for a nuclear weapon. Remember how these things operate. They spin around very, very fast, tens of thousands of revolutions per minute, faster than the speed of sound. By getting up to that fast of a speed, they slowly move the heavier uranium-238 to the outside of the centrifuge, leaving the fissile uranium-235 in greater concentration in the center of the centrifuge. The Stuxnet virus forced the centrifuges to spin erratically. And because they're sensitive pieces of technology, this caused the centrifuges to either break down or break apart. And thus, it's theorized that the central purpose of Stuxnet all along was to penetrate Iran's nuclear program from the inside and wreak havoc. Third is mysterious explosions. Rewind to April 6, 1979. The Osirek reactors were recently completed and sitting in the south of France, awaiting shipment. 7 people infiltrated the installation where they were located, bombed them, and destroyed them. An anonymous phone call claimed that the French ecological group committed the attacks. But no one ever heard of them before the attack, and they were never heard from again. France suspected Mossad, but a host of others have been blamed as well. The CIA, Gaddafi, Russia, Syria, and even French intelligence agents that knew Iraq was up to no good. Something similar happened on August 7, 1980. 2 bombs went off in Italy that day. One, seen here, was at the headquarters of an Italian company that assisted Iraq with reprocessing technology. The other was at that company's general manager's apartment. Threatening letters were then sent to scientists in France, Italy, and Iraq. The Committee to Safeguard the Islamic Revolution claimed responsibility. But again, no one had heard of them before or would hear from them ever again. Finally, in August of 2020, a fire broke out in one of the support buildings at the Natanz site. Iran claims that it was sabotage. The last method is perhaps the most audacious. Operation Merlin. The CIA came up with Merlin during the Clinton administration. The plan was to find a rogue Russian nuclear scientist, give him faulty nuclear blueprints, and have him pass them off to Iran. The plan backfired. The Russian scientist realized the fault in the design, corrected it, and allowed Iran to put itself in a better position than had Operation Merlin never happened. And those are some of the ways that states can sabotage their opponents' nuclear programs short of preventive war. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and hope to see you next time. Take care.